DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one masterclass. This daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today, I'm going to go on the record with a timely tentpole episode, meaning this is based around, this is a time-based thing, what I'm about to share with you here today. And if this ends up, and for posterity's sake, being completely wrong, you can pull this up. This will be a receipt that you can use against me, okay? I'm going to tell you my plan, my election 2020 plan for Black America. Now, I don't think the rest of America really needs an election 2020 plan. They already got one. Actually, everybody else already got one. So for Black America, here's the plan. Here's the plan that I propose, okay? I'm not putting I'm not going to do any advertising behind this plan. I am not building a website around this plan, but this is the plan. I want to make sure that I'm on the record, letting anyone know. Doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, who you have already chosen to vote for. Maybe you've already voted by the time you hear this. I'm going to lay out my plan anyway so that for posterity's sake, anyone can look back at what I said about the 2020 election in this episode right here. Here is my plan for what you should do if you're a Black person and you're trying to figure out, all right, what is going to best help the Black cause? What's going to best help my personal cause? What's going to help me get to where I want to get to in life? And I think a lot of the material that I'm going to share here today is not really specifically for Black people. This could be for anybody. It doesn't matter what color you are. You're just trying to make sense of all this political stuff that's happening. A lot of the nonsense that's going on. A lot of the unnecessariness is being done and said and perpetuated by a whole lot of people. What can somebody do when it comes to this election in 2020? That's what I'm going to offer here today. So we're going to make sure this episode comes out before the election actually occurs. My election plan for Black America. Actually, we might put this out on the actual day of the election. I think that might be the smart thing to do. Yeah, so I think, Nico, we're going to make sure this comes out on November the 3rd. Is that election day, November the 3rd? I think so. Let me check. Yeah, November 3rd. So we're going to make sure this episode comes out on November 3rd so everybody knows what Dre said is his election plan for 2020. So hopefully y'all listen to this show first thing in the morning before you go vote. Maybe you already voted, but again, I'm just going on the record. Point number one. Vote for whoever the hell you want. All right, that's the first point. Okay, maybe some of y'all thought I was going to tell you who to vote for. No. You vote for whoever you want to vote for. You want to vote for Kanye in the write-in ballot? Do it. You want to vote for Joe Jorgensen? Do it. You want to vote for Donald Trump? Vote for him. You want to vote for Joe Biden? Vote for him. If you don't want to vote at all, don't vote at all. Whatever choice you want to make, you go ahead and do it. Okay? Because here's why. It doesn't really matter who you choose. Because none of the candidates who is running for president, at least none of them there's only two candidates pretty much who have a chance to win. Okay, let's just talk about that. I don't know what Kanye is actually thinking about doing or Jorgensen. As far as Trump and Biden, okay, neither one of those individuals, as far as I can tell, is focused on Black America. Now, why would either one of them be focused on Black America? The majority of America ain't Black. So why would they need to focus on them? They don't. That's the answer. It's a trick question. They don't need to focus on Black America. So every 4 years, when a bunch of prominent Black people and whoever's running for president come around and they start talking about what they need to do, what they're going to do for Black people, and Black people come out and say, well, we shouldn't vote for anyone unless they have an agenda for Black people. What are they going to do to help Black people? We need to figure out how they're going to help Blacks. That's the person we should vote for. Listen, that's a bullshit reasoning because none of them is going to do anything for Black people. That's not the way life works. That's not the way these elections and government works. And we do not hold a majority in the United States. So why the hell do they need to do anything for Black people? And again, trick question, they don't. Neither of these candidates is focused on Black people. Doesn't mean they won't do anything for Black people. Doesn't mean they won't have some ideas. Doesn't mean they're not genuine in saying whatever it is they said and the plans that they put out and all that. Even though we have Kamala Harris as a vice presidential candidate and she's Black. Or she's brown. Let's just say she's brown. Okay? None of them is focused on Black America. They're not going to survive in their job. All they focus on is a small percentage of the population. They got to focus on bigger things. which it really is not about the people at all. It's about politics. But anyway, it's a different conversation for a different day. So choose whoever the hell you want to pick. As far as I'm concerned, is overall in the bigger picture inconsequential. Now, some of you may have different arguments as to how you feel about how much it matters and who gets voted for and the long-term ramifications and effects of all that. But let me build my case here so you understand exactly what I'm saying. All right. Do not think you're choosing somebody because they're going to do something for black people. If you choose the person that you're choosing, don't choose them because of that. Okay. That is not what they're going to do. So choose whatever you want. You choose Biden because you think he's just an improvement on Trump, even though you don't really like Biden like that. I'm good with that. If you choose Trump because you think he's actually done things to help black people, I'm good with that as well. If you choose Kanye because you like his music, I'm good with that. If you choose Jorgensen because you are opposing the two-party system, I'm good with that. But do not make your choice because you think you're choosing someone who's going to, quote unquote, do something for black people. All right, that is bullshit. All right, you can't still be falling for that in 2020. Point number 2. Topic here today is my election 2020 plan for black America. I'm going to quote you something that was said on January 20th, 1961. If you are not aware of the significance of that date, I was not alive at that time, but I'm aware of the significance of that date. If you don't know, that was the day of the presidential inauguration. And the president being inaugurated on January 20th, 1961 was a man by the name of John F. Kennedy, JFK. And here's what he said. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Close quote. Now, for black folks who are listening to this right now, or anybody who's listening to this right now, when you go vote, or when you're looking at politics and you're looking at the debates and all these things that are going on, let me tell you what question you should stop asking. Stop asking what the government or XYZ politician, black politician, white politician, whoever, stop asking what they're going to do for you, because that's not really the game that they're playing. They appear to be playing the game that they're going to do something for you. That's how they campaign, right? They go on the campaign trail and they run ads and tell you all the things that they're going to do for you. That's not the real game that they're playing. Okay? Ask what you, as a person, man, woman, or whatever you consider yourself to be, ask what you are going to do for your community. Whatever community you happen to be a part of. If you're in the sports community, if you're in the coal miners community, if you're in the Jewish community, if you're in the black community, if you're in the Christian community, whatever community you happen to be a part of, don't ask what the government is going to do for you. Ask yourself, what am I doing for my community? Because listen, the politician might never come around. We might not hear from them. They might not do anything for us. I mean, every election cycle that comes around, let me ask a question. Is it not true that every election cycle that comes around, a bunch of people start complaining about politicians and say, well, this politician didn't do anything for us. This one didn't do anything. This one's not going to do anything. Every election that comes up, a bunch of people in the population, this is democracy, so it doesn't matter what people say. When a bunch of people start talking about how the current elected politician didn't do anything or is not doing anything or is doing a terrible job, every election somebody's pointed out as not doing a good job for certain aspects of certain communities. Is this true or is this not true? How is it possible that every single elected official, somebody's pissed off about what that elected official did not do for that particular community? Every community has somebody to complain about when it comes to politics. Does everybody notice that? Am I wrong about that? No, I'm right. All right. So since this is true, here's the thing. What you need to understand is that the politician is not really focused on, quote, doing something for you, close quote. That's not really the game that they're playing. They got to play the political game, because just to keep it real, as I just told you in yesterday's episode, every choice in life has a trade-off. And politicians are humans. They have lives. Being a president or a mayor or a governor or a judge, that's all part of life, right? And they have trade-offs as well. So if the president has to make a decision to help a bunch of people on this side, there's a trade-off for that. There's something that is going to be, there's a cost that needs to be paid for that decision on another side, and it's a trade-off. But no president has ever, as far as I know, has ever got in front of an audience and explicitly said, now they may have said it in a roundabout way, but no one has ever explicitly said, listen, I can do this thing for you, but here's the trade-off for that. Look, I can lower taxes for this group of people, but if I do that, here's the trade-off. Here's how you're going to have to pay for the fact that we lower taxes. Or I can do this for this group over here, but it's going to hurt this community. I can do this for this community, but it's going to cost the people in this community. No elected official ever comes out and says anything like that, that would be political suicide. It would be career suicide. First of all, everybody they say is going to be hurt by the trade-off will never vote for them again. Secondly, whatever political opponent they face in their next election is going to hammer them with that and use it against them and get them defeated easily in an election. So no politician ever can tell the 100% truth, because the 100% truth of life, ladies and gentlemen, is that everything involves a trade-off. And the problem with trade-offs when you are elected to serve an entire community of people, all who have divergent interests, and the fact that trade-offs are not going away just because you're serving people who don't have the same goals, you're going to piss somebody off if you were to tell them the actual truth. And this is why politicians have to lie. They have to tell half-truths. They have to massage the truth, because if they told the actual truth, they would piss a whole bunch of people off and they wouldn't be politicians for long. All right, this is why I couldn't be a politician, because I would tell people too much of the truth. And I would piss a bunch of people off on my first day. I'll piss people off before I even got elected. That's why I couldn't even win. I wouldn't even win an election. I would have to do too much lying. It wouldn't work for me. All that being said, ladies and gentlemen, instead of asking what the government is going to do for you, because I just explained to you, anything they do for you, eventually you're going to have to pay for what they did for you in some way, shape, or form that you may or may not notice that is connected to what they did for you in the first place. Ask what you can do for your community. Forget the government. What are you doing for your community? Instead of asking what this guy is going to do for us or what they're going to do, what are you going to do? What are you doing? We call this responsibility and accountability. Responsibility and accountability. These two words are the central terms of a conversation that, as I've talked about in many episodes of this show, many black people don't want to have a conversation around these two words, because responsibility and accountability require effort and energy. Not all black people, many black people, especially the social justice warriors amongst us. These require effort and energy, and it requires us to look in the mirror instead of out of the window. We see blaming the government, blaming white people, white supremacy, systemic racism, blaming politicians. That requires nothing from a person but talk. You could just say it and it sounds good, and you get a round of applause from other people who also don't want to use the words responsibility and accountability. It's fun. It's easy. Problem with things that are fun and easy is they don't produce much of a result. This is why I have not been a supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. Whether you want to say it's a difference between the website and the hashtag and the movement, I don't give a fuck what kind of ways you want to split hairs. I do not support it, because I don't see black Americans being held accountable by Black Lives Matter. I only hear white people and police being held accountable. When a black person is murdered by another black person, I don't see anybody hashtagging. I don't see anybody marching. I don't see it getting promoted on the news. I don't see any social justice warriors making any news, any noise about it. They only make noise when there's a white person to blame, or the government is to blame, or some system is to blame, or something that does not require personal accountability is to blame. That's the only time I hear from the social justice warriors / Black Lives Matter staunchest supporters. These are the race hustlers out there, the Sean Kings, the Tamika Mowrys, the Jamel Hills. They're quiet when black people get killed by other black people, even kids getting killed by black people. They don't make any noise about it, none, zero. Why? Because there's no attention to be gained from that conversation. You have that conversation that requires black people, us, to look at ourselves in the mirror. That doesn't get followers on social media. That doesn't get you a round of applause. That doesn't get you any real attention. The real attention comes from the very people that these social justice warriors claim to be fighting, white people. Think about it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Point number 3. Topic here today is my plan, my election 2020 plan for Black America. The third thing that you need to do is make the game easier for those who are building a community. And what does it mean to build the community? Well, let's look at the government. Since we are talking about an election, what does the government do for business owners? You know why the government likes business owners? Does anybody know why business owners are able to pay less in taxes than people who have jobs? Anybody know why when Donald Trump, the report came out from the New York Times, who knows how credible this report was? The New York Times is so anti-Trump, it's ridiculous. But when New York Times came out with a report that said Donald Trump had only paid $750 in taxes for 2 years in a row, there were people who came out and said, well, that kind of makes sense. It can make sense. Who knows, again, how much their reporting is actually factual and how much is them just making up whatever they need to make up in order to put a story out, because the New York Times is no longer completely objective. I understand why, because Donald Trump bashed them many times early in his 4 years as president. I get it. but they're not objective at all. So when that came out, there were people who said, well, look, that kind of can happen. Why? Because the government gives the most tax breaks to people who are investors and owners of businesses. Robert Kiyosaki talked about this in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book I read 20 plus years ago. And they have the highest tax rates for self-employed and employees. Why is this? The government loves entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs create jobs. Entrepreneurs create employment for other people, in other words. You notice how, if you look at every presidential election, every single presidential candidate always talks about what? Job creation. They talk about the unemployment rate. They talk about how low unemployment is, how it's lower than it was before, or how unemployment is on its way down. Or a president will brag and say, I've created this many jobs since I've been in office. Those notice how every presidential candidate says that, and every opponent tries to use that against them. They say, well, look how high unemployment is. This president is terrible. Look how many people don't have jobs. Look at all these people who are trying to find work. They always talk about employment, whether you're the incumbent talking about how good you are, or you're the challenger trying to talk down on the incumbent. They always talk about job creation. You know why that is? Because job creation is a huge deal for the everyday person. There are people out there who are really trying to figure out, how can I get a job? How can I make some money to take care of my family, right? And this is why the government gives so many tax breaks to people who create jobs, i.e. entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs help build the economy. Every time a new job is created and someone's hired for that job, the economy is being built. There are more people who have a job now because this new thing was created by this entrepreneur, this brand new venture. Everybody understand it. And this is why the government loves business owners, and this is how a business owner like Donald Trump can pay $750 in taxes, even though they made who knows how much, a lot. So the question is, who are the entrepreneurs, the builders, the community builders in your community? And I don't necessarily mean that you have to be an entrepreneur creating a business and giving somebody a job. But who are the people who are building the community? Who is adding value to the community and making the community better? That's the question that I'm asking you. Who are those people? And what are you doing to either become one of them or make the game easier for them to do what they're doing? These are the people who either hire, if we're talking about entrepreneurs, who hire black people or make black people more hireable, right? Because you could be the type of person who you help educate black people so that now they are in a better position to get a better job than they were before. Maybe in a position to get a job when before they were not in a position to get a job. So you are either giving people a job or you're better positioning other people to get a job. In other words, helping them develop professional development, personal growth. All those things make a person more hireable. It puts them in a better position to get a job than they were before they came across you. Or you're just straight up giving somebody a job directly. Right? And the person who gets a job, now when they have a job, they're getting paid every 2 weeks. And guess what? Why the government gives a damn about that? Because now the government can tax that person, and that's how the government makes their money. This is the whole cycle of how it works. So this is what I'm telling you here on point number 3. The topic, once again, my 2020 election plan for Black America, or for anyone in America. Make the game easier for those who are building up the community. Who is actually making the community better? Who is making people better? Who is giving more value than they're taking away? Who is putting more on the table than they are taking off the table? The game should be made as easy as possible for those people. The government does this, has automatic mechanisms in place to make the game easier for the entrepreneurs who help build the economy. What's happening in your community? Who are the people who are building up that community? And how easy is the game made for people like those individuals? Hopefully you're one of them. And if you're not, then you should be on your way to being one. If you're listening to this show consistently enough, you are on your way to being one if you're listening to this. Who is making the community better, and how are they being helped to have less friction in making the community better? Now that one you should answer. Point number 4. The topic here today is my 2020 election plan, or election 2020 plan for Black America or anyone in America. Point number 4, need a system of relegation. What is relegation? In the sports world, overseas, in Europe specifically, the relegation system works thusly. The worst teams in a certain league, let's say the A League, the top league, the 2 worst teams, for example, in the A League, get kicked out of the league at the end of the season. And where do they go? They got to now play in the B League. This is the lower tier league. And in exchange, the 2 best teams in the B League, they get promoted. Now they get to play in the A League. The worst teams in one group get kicked out. and the best teams in the lower group get promoted and moved up. That is the relegation system that happens in the sports world. It happens in soccer, it happens in basketball. I don't know about other sports. Now, what does the relegation system have to do with your community and where you live and where the people that you deal with every day? The system of relegation works like this. You and your community need to start evicting those who are destroying the community. Who's bringing the community down? Who is not adding any value? Who's taking a lot of food off the table, but they're not bringing any food to the table? Who's coming to the potluck dinner with no food, but they're eating everything? Those are the people you need to get rid of. You need to drive them out of the community. Because in life, as I told you, you're either building or destroying. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're adding something to the table or you are taking something off the table. There is no neutral. There's a movie called Lean on Me. I don't know if any of you ever seen the movie. The general premise of the movie was this principal, or he worked for the school district, and he got assigned to be the principal at like one of the worst schools in the city, whatever city this happened to be. And this is an all black community, 99% black students. So this guy, his name is Mr. Clark. He got assigned to go work at this school. So he goes to the school, and he already knows the reputation of this school is a terrible school. It has the worst students. Nobody wants to learn. Nobody listens. All right, you're basically headed to a dead-end job being the principal at that school because you're going to fail. It's going to make you look bad. It's going to look bad on your resume, and now you got to go deal with it. That's just tough shit for you, Mr. Clark. So Mr. Clark shows up at this school, which is terrible. It is just as terrible as he thought it was, just as terrible as he was told it would be. It is. He goes there and he sees that there's graffiti on the walls. People don't go to class. Students are hanging out in the hallways. The teachers get disrespected by the students all day, every day. Mr. Clark calls an assembly. So everybody goes, all the students are in the auditorium. And he had the worst students. He went around to the teachers, I believe, I may be getting parts of the details here wrong, but the general premise is accurate. He rounds up all the worst students in the school. The students who are always getting suspended, not coming to class, failing classes, just terrible students who are disruptive. They're misbehaving. They're just the type of students who seem to not even want to be students, but they happen to be coming to school every day because they ain't got nowhere else to go, right? They're basically daycare for their families. So he gets all the worst students and he has them up on the stage while the assembly is beginning. So all the regular students who are actually trying to learn, they're sitting in the stands, in the crowd, just waiting to hear what Mr. Clark's going to say. All the bad students, the terrible ones, are up on the stage and they're showing off, making spectacles of themselves, just goofing off like they normally do. All these bad students. Mr. Clark wasn't even in the auditorium yet. So the bad kids are up on the stage. The okay and good kids are sitting in the crowd. Finally, Mr. Clark walks into the auditorium. Mr. Clark has a megaphone in his hand. He walks up on the stage and he starts talking to the crowd. You can probably find this clip on YouTube. And Mr. Clark starts to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, these are the students, these are the lowest of the low students at this school. These are the students who have disrupted class. They've disrespected the teachers. They obviously don't want to learn. They're not here to actually help the school. They're bringing the school down. These students up here that you're looking at on stage are the reason why you students who are sitting in the crowd can't learn the way that you need to learn, because of these kids up here behind me on stage. So as of this point forward, all of these kids you see on stage are expelled from this school. They don't go here anymore. You are all dismissed. You're kicked out. Get out. Now, when Mr. Clark made that announcement, all the kids sitting in the crowd, these are the good kids, they're like, oh shit, like this dude is not joking. This guy's for real. He's actually coming in here and doing something. And then all the kids on the stage, the majority of them, they were like, they were shoulder shrugging. They're like, okay, so we didn't want to be in school. You're absolutely right. We don't care. We don't want to hear from the teachers. We don't want to be in class. All right, we're kicked out. Who cares? All right, we didn't give a damn anyway. Most of them just file out. Like, okay, we don't go here anymore. So what? And there were a few kids who were up on the stage who were, performing as bad kids, but they didn't want to actually get kicked out of school. They were like, I'm being bad, but I still want to be in school. And they're like kind of slack-jawed, like, wait a minute, I just got kicked out of school. I don't go here anymore. All right, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I wasn't trying to be that bad. And then the rest of the movie is all about Mr. Clark putting things together in that school and making it better, and some of those bad kids redeeming themselves. Again, you can go find the movie. It is called Lean on Me. But the whole concept, the reason I'm sharing that with you here in this fourth point of relegation is sometimes in life, you can't save everybody. Sometimes in life, you can't fix people who are already broken. Sometimes you just got to get rid of the people who are not helping. Sometimes in life, you don't need addition by addition. You need addition by subtraction. Sometimes in life, less is more. Sometimes you got people in your community who are not helping it. They are bringing it down. They're not going to make it better. You just need to get rid of them. Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not willing to get rid of them like Mr. Clark, then that excess is going to weigh you down. And you got to decide when and if to cut the fat and where to cut. All that being said, let's recap my election 2020 plan for Black America or for anyone in America. Number one, vote for whoever the hell you want. All right. No politician's main goal is to help any micro community out there. Unless you happen to be the majority, their goal is not to help that community, because that's not going to win them any elections. I explained that to you already. That's not the whole purpose of politics. The purpose of politics is playing politics. It is not necessarily to help the people. If they help the people in the process of playing politics, then it's all good. But do not expect that it's always going to fall in your favor. Point number two, January 20th, 1961, JFK said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." So do not ask what the government is going to do for you, but ask, what are you doing for the community itself? All right, the way that the government helps out the people who are building, what are you doing? Are you helping? All right, are you only showing up when there's something to be gained politically from it, some attention to be gotten, or are you doing it on a consistent basis? Number three, make the game easier for those who are building the community. This is what the government does for business owners. They give them tax breaks because business owners create jobs, which builds the economy, because the government can now tax those people who now have a job, because before they didn't. If a person doesn't have a job, the government pays them. When a person has a job, they pay the government. You see how that relationship switches just so quickly as soon as somebody gets a job? That's why the government loves people who create jobs. So who in your community is either helping people get a job or giving people a job? It should be very easy for those people to keep doing what they're doing. How easy is the community making it for the people who are building it, as opposed to how much is your community subsidizing the people who are pulling it down? That is a huge difference in whether a community is moving forward or a community is moving backward. In the Black community, we do a whole lot of subsidizing of the losers, and we make it harder for the people who are actually helping. If you want your community to move forward, that equation must flip. And those of you who are not Black, you're nodding your head right now because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Point number four, we need a system of relegation. We need to evict those who are destroying the community. In life, you are either building or destroying. In the movie Lean On Me, Mr. Clark got rid of all the people who were destroying. He decided he did not want to redeem them. And in many communities that are thriving, that's exactly what they do. They get rid of the idiots. They don't try to help the idiots. We showed you how to do something for yourself. You didn't want to do it. All right, now get the hell out of our community. Is your community doing that? And are you personally doing it? Now forget everybody else. What are you doing? That's my election plan for 2020 for any person, any color in the United States of America. Vote for whoever you want. Go USA. Work on your game. Dre all